Hey, Living in Liberty with Peewee. Peewee here. Have you ever had one of those moments when you figure out kind of what makes you tick? I know I'm an analytical person. It's it's a gift and it's a curse that I'm analytical. But I do analyze things, and I try to find out and figure out why things happen the way they happen and why I do what I do, and a little bit of a psychologist, I suppose. As a pastor, I'm a counselor, so I'm always counseling with people, giving some biblical counsel, advice, some practical type advice. Not that I've got it all figured out. I haven't. I've got my own set of stuff I work through all the time, I assure you. But a little bit of a problem solver. But so I've always known that's in my makeup. Way back in the car business days, that was part of who I was. But I've started to really kind of put things together to figure out that I'm a creator. I'm not like the creator. I didn't make the heavens and the earth. I'm not all that. No. But I do think I create things. Like, I'm a content creator. These are social media words. I know we don't like to use those words, but in the truest sense of the word, I think I am a content creator. And in that, I enjoy doing the podcast that I do, the Proving God's Will podcast. I enjoy that. The creative process behind it. The creating the videos for Living in Liberty with Peewee, this YouTube channel. I enjoy doing that. But what I've noticed is that when you're trying to schedule doing these things or have some rhythm to it, it's not always there. It's more of a certain days you feel like you're going to do that. You just certain days lend itself to creating some type of content. And I remember back when in 2011 I did publish a book called The Gideon in You. However, the book did not start. I started on the book in probably 2006 maybe, or 2005 or 6. I got sort of like this green light, what I felt like from the Lord, to write this book called The Gideon in You. I was reading the Bible through that year and got to the book of Judges, and just as a preacher, you see the breakdown of the text. You kind of see where there's a path, where it goes, a progression of thought, if you will, or a narrative that just plays out, and you see the storyline. So I was reading about Gideon, and I just quickly saw there's a message there. So I on the legal pad, I jotted down the outline of what that message would be, and I thanked the Lord, and I kept reading, and it led to 6 sermons total. And within just within just an hour, maybe, I had outlined 6 messages that I could not have made sense on my own. I couldn't have just put that together. Well, you might could have put it together, but you wouldn't have put it together that fast. It wouldn't have been like just, that fast. And so that later on, I remember just thanking the Lord for the series, giving me a sermon series, is what I thought, and I felt Him put it on my heart. That's a book. But what I found in writing the book is that over the course of between that time, which was 2004, 5, and 6, whenever that was, to the time I actually finished and published the book, which was 2011, that I couldn't just work on it. And listen, the book's only 125 pages or whatever. I mean, it's not that long. I mean, it shouldn't take that long to write that. But what I found is that certain times I would feel this pressure to write. And then I might not write another chapter for like, I don't know, weeks or months. And then I'd pick it back up, and I'd wake up one morning knowing that today I'm going to write the next chapter. And I would sit down and with my laptop, and I'd have some chicken scratch notes, and I would just, it'd be effortless. A little vibration coming up Snows Hill. My truck does not like the top of Snows Hill. If I catch it between gears and how it likes to shift, it likes to vibrate a little bit. So I apologize if it's a little unsteady. But back to the book. So as I'm writing this book, I would stop and then I would start again. I would feel a sense that morning I'm going to write, and so that creative type chemistry that was going on in me, I think is the same thing when I'm gonna record podcasts or going to do a YouTube video with this channel, Living in Liberty with Peewee. I think that's what's going on, because if you listen to the gurus, they'll say that you've got to post these videos with consistency, like clockwork, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever it is. I can't get into that. It just doesn't flow like that. And again, I'm not looking to build a channel, I'm not looking to make money. I get no monetization from any of this, other than what I'm doing is sowing seed most of the time. I'm sharing something from the Word of God often, so I'm looking to further God's kingdom and disciple people perhaps that I'll never know or never meet, but stumble upon a video and I make it speak something to them that would point them toward Jesus Christ or the Bible. So, but it's this creative process. I have figured out that it's driving a lot of what I'm doing. And now, sermon preparation, that's creating a message. Now, you're getting a message. It's a message. It's not a sermon. It's a message. And you do get that from the Lord, but there is a sense of sitting down and taking the framework or the skeleton or the body of this text and then bringing it together and putting it out there in terms of what is needing to be communicated. What do we do with what we've heard? That type of thing. So you are creating sermons. You're in messages. You're writing them out, or at least sketching them out. Now, somebody's going to come on here and say, "Now, my preacher doesn't do that," or your preacher, and you say, "I don't do that at all, Brother Jason." And listen, I write some things out to get my thoughts clear, to make sure that I'm communicating well. It's not necessarily verbatim when I get to the pulpit, but there's this, writing for clarity, I guess is what I'm talking about. But in sermon prep, there's creativity. You're creating something there, and you're creating something. But then the podcast, you're creating something, the format of it, the YouTube channel. But then there's something in me right now. Nikki, for instance, bought me a Yamaha F325 guitar back in 2007 for Christmas. Didn't know she was getting me a guitar for Christmas, but she did. She got one of our guys in our church to locate a good starter guitar, and he got it for me. And I have not taken the time to really learn the guitar. I will play around with it for a little while and lay it down. Play around with it for a little while and lay it down. But there's something in me that wants to pick that up and learn. And it's this creative side of me that wants to create something with that. And so lately I've been thinking that I'm about to be more intentional about that. Of course, Nikki and I are empty nesters pretty much. Hannah will be married this December. Our older two daughters have been married now for a handful of years, and they live in Ohio. And so even though I'm a pastor, and there's weeks that are really busy for sure, but there's also some downtime. There's some time where, at night or whatever, you got some time. And so time to sit down with a guitar and create something. Absolutely. got time to do that. The YouTube channel, podcasting, making some time for those things to happen. But I think that's, I'm finding that when I can do something that's creative, I'm at my happiest, you know. Riding four-wheeler, you know, if you look back in our channel, you see a number of four-wheeler riding videos. Well, just riding is not, that has some benefit. I like doing that on these back roads, but if you notice, what did I do there? I took the purpose I have from the Lord, this love for his church, and the church is plural, and next thing you know, I've got a 9 video series, 9 videos, if I can say that right, of me prayer riding churches, where I took the creative thing that wants to happen in me. I've got a four-wheeler that likes to ride these back roads, and I've got a purpose from God, and it all married together in some videos that whether anybody watches them or not doesn't matter. I think about when you're creating something, I think what's important is that you create something that you enjoy. It's like the person that sits down and puts together puzzles. Well, I've got a lady in our church, Linda, that she puts together a puzzle about, I don't know, probably 2 a week, if not more. She'll correct me if she hears this, but she has a creative side to her that she likes to take a puzzle that's in a million pieces and then put it together. And listen, we're not doing that for financial gain. There's just some satisfaction from creating something that just a little bit, a little while ago was not. And you put it together. Something about that satisfies something in us. And I think that's what I'm figuring out is that, and I'm 56, I probably should already figure this out, but nearly all the times in my life when I've been very productive, whether it's in my work, in the car business, or ministry, or whatever, it's when the creative juices in me get flowing and what I'm seeing can come to the table. For instance, if I had my way back when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, I was going to Nashville Tech wanting to be a computer-aided draftsman, which would help create and design interior spaces of buildings, homes, commercial buildings, you name it. But God had a different plan. But then in the ministry, I've been part of 2 or 3 building projects. A couple of them were huge. I've been part of a couple of renovations where we changed the space, where we helped the space. And that's, again, this creative side coming out in me. That's when I can benefit the group I'm with the most. Maybe is when I'm creative or allowed to be creative. And so, anyhow, I just getting this little bit of a revelation that I don't need to shy away from being creative. And it's probably going to move and change. And listen, this also goes back to when I was a teenager. I used to draw a lot. I used to draw Nikki these pictures, and she says it's the same picture every time, of like a house and a mountain behind it, and then for some depth there was a fence row running in front with a tree. She says I probably did draw that same picture, like, I don't know how many times, maybe 20 times. I don't know. That may be too few, but I used to draw these pictures for Nikki all the time. And but that little bit of a creative gene, I guess, was in me. I'm rambling here today again. Yesterday's video, or the most recent video you may watch, is titled Ramble On. This might be Ramble On Part 2. Ramble On Part 2. And I think part of this, maybe the creative side of me gets it from the Lowhorns. My dad's family was creative. I've got, for instance, and most of them have passed by now, but my Uncle Howard that lived in Baltimore, before you had all these graphic companies that would print your logo and put it on like the door of your truck if you had a business. My Uncle Howard would paint that. He would stencil that out or freehand that, and he would paint those logos on your door. So he was a painter like that. He could create that. I had an uncle named Paul Lowhorn. If you Google it, you'll find this Paul Lowhorn in Chattanooga, who was a jazz musician and composer. And my Uncle Paul, we called him Pid. My Uncle Pid actually wrote some jazz type music that every jazz person in the country would know. And the song is called like the letter N, In Quincy's Bag. Famous song and instrumental. And but my Uncle Pid, he'd help compose music. He would take like the theme to Dallas, the TV show way back in the day. He would then turn that into high school band music for the flute, the clarinet, the French horn. He would like create those parts, break down something that may have just been written in a sort of maybe a rock and roll type genre, and turn around and make it into high school band music. So my Uncle Pid would do that, and in his part time he would play music at a jazz club in Chattanooga. My dad, for instance, Don Lowhorn, my dad was legally blind, but my dad he worked at the theater for many years, and he had this thing for movies. He had a feel for, and music too. My dad was a big music guy as far as listening and knowing good music. I don't know, so we've got this type of artsy, creative thing going on, I think, in my family, in the Lowhorn side of things. And anyhow, this is video Ramble on 2. This is Peewee, Living in Liberty with Peewee. Again, I had to make a few stops this morning, and I'm just sharing with you maybe something I've discovered about myself. And this video, you may have already checked out on it, but if you've listened to the end, I appreciate you tuning in. If you hit the subscribe button and like the video, sometimes it helps push it out there so I can interact with other people. And listen, I've got the gospel in a lot of my videos that people need to hear. Listen, thanks for tuning in. Take care.